Iminay 38 na legislature ng Guam is called to order. Can I ask, please, for Senator Talatadegui to kindly lead us in prayer? Please rise.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to my colleagues. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Lord, your grace brings this body together once again to maintain our course towards building a stronger Guahan. With gratitude and deep humility, we ask that you guide our debates with respectful discourse so that our words lead to policy outcomes where Guam's people are safer and moving steadily toward economic recovery and sustainability. Lord, we pray that you will lead our deliberations with the spirit of cooperation. Give us the courage to stand against those who hurt the people's trust. Impart on us the wisdom to restore faith where it's been lost. Remind us that together we are 15 members of a community chosen to be the voice of thousands, to represent and fight for the best interest of all those whose rights, health, and safety are protected by this government. Heavenly Father, the work we do for our people is our answer to your call to serve others. May the work we accomplish this session be done with truth and fairness as we carry out the commitment to build a better Guam. In your good name we pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Senator Tadigui. Senator Chris Barnett lead in singing the national anthem, and Senator Chris Duenas in the Guam hymn. You see by the cloudy eye, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose rough skies and bright stars through the perilous time. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly sweet, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Can I now ask Senator and former Speaker Teresa Light to lead us in the interface?
Ginani mastakilu gi hinasoko, I mastakulum gi kursonhu, dani masfigu nani nasunahu, hu fressen maisatu parabahu, protehi danhu defendi, I hinengi, I cultura, I lenguaje, I airi, I hano, dani tanu tamoro. Ni irensako diretu genenastu estata, esti hua fitma gihilu I Biblia dani bandera rahu I bandera Guaha.
to express a never-ending and never-forgotten gratitude by the people of Guam. The legislature recognizes the recipients of Miladan Mastakilo na Sakrifisyun on display in the Guam Congress Building and during each of its sessions. For the recognition of the recipient of a Miladan Mastakilo na Sakrifisyun, Senator Sabrina Salas Matanani, you are recognized.
On behalf of a grateful island and country, we honor Sergeant Vicente T. Espinosa and the family of Sergeant Vicente Espinosa for making the ultimate sacrifice in service and defense of our island and country.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please take the roll call.
Vice Speaker Ada. Senator Barnett. Speaker Blas.
Here.
Senator Borja. Senator Calvo. Senator Duenas. Senator Gumatautau. Senator Lujan. Senator Munya Barnes. Senator Parkinson. Senator Perez. Senator Salas Matanani. Senator San Augustine. Senator Taitagui. Senator Terlahi. Mr. Speaker, there is a quorum.
Senator Masi, Madam Clerk. Majority Leader Senator Rohan, you are recognized.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to approve the legislative journals dated March 24th, April 8th, April 14th, and May 1st, 2025, subject to corrections.
On the motion to approve the legislative journals dated March 24, April 8, April 14, and May 1st, 2025, are there any objections? No objections, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator Rohan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are communications and petitions, and I move that they be appended to today's session journal.
On the motion that communications and petitions be appended to today's session journal, are there any objections? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator Rohan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are messages from the Imagahaganguahan, and I move that they be appended to today's session journal.
On the motion that messages from Imagahaganguahan be appended to today's session journal, are there any objections? There are no objections, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator Rohan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are reports of standing committees, and I move that they be appended to today's session journal.
On the motion that reports of standing committees be appended to today's session journal, are there any objections? There are no objections, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator Rohan, you are recognized.
Mr. Speaker, there are no reports of select committees.
Thank you, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I move that bills introduce Bill number 9838 LS through 9938 CRR through 14238 CR, and resolutions introduced, resolution numbers 33-38 LS through 3638 LS, 3738 CRR through 5138 CRR, 5238 LS, and 5338 through 5538 CR be given their first reading.
On the motion, are there any objections? There are no objections, motion carries. We are in motions. Majority Leader Senator Rohan, you recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move to excuse senators not present for today's legislative session. Well, I think everybody's here now. Yep, everybody's here.
Okay, everybody's here.
Looks like, yeah, we're 15.
All right. Majority Leader Senator Rohan, you recognized again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that all congratulatory, commendatory, and condolence resolutions introduced today and for the remainder of the legislative session be considered to have the first reading and adopted, and allow the Legislative Council to make technical corrections and to add all senators as co-sponsors.
On the motion, are there any objections? There are no objection, motion carries. We are, Senator Tyree, you're recognized.
Situs Masi, Mr. Speaker. And good morning to you again, and to my colleagues, and to the people of Guam who are watching. Mr. Speaker, at this time, notwithstanding the objections of Imagahangan Guahan on vetoed Bill 14-38, which is an act to amend 1909C, Chapter 19, Title I of the Guam Code annotated relative to the duties of the public auditor, I motion to place Bill 14-38 COR onto the voting file for the purpose of an override and would like to speak on it, Mr. Speaker.
You can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, again. Colleagues, once again, we are here to address Bill 14-38, but this time it's to take action to an override by the governor's veto on the legislation that was voted unanimously by this body. Today, our opportunity, not just to uphold one policy, but to preserve the integrity of our decision as a legislative body and to ensure accountability to those in trust. I introduced Bill 14-38 to affirm that the Office of the Public Accountability has the authority to proactively investigate, audit, and report on government agencies in response to red flags, public complaints, or irregularities in government operation. The measure strengthens the author's ability to safeguard public funds and respond to the concerns of our people. As you all are aware, this bill is a reintroduction effort first introduced as Bill number 213-37 in the 37th Guam Legislature. It too passed unanimously as well, but the governor vetoed this bill and it failed an override on several attempts. I brought it back to the 38th Guam Legislature because the need for an independent oversight has not changed, and because I remain committed to ensuring that no agency is beyond accountability. The governor's veto, based on mischaracterization of the bill and the public auditor's role, unfairly shifts the blame for audit delays away from non-compliant agencies and undermines decades of established nonpartisan oversight that this legislature has long supported. But my colleagues, our laws already recognize the importance of timelines and compliance in government reporting. BBMR is subject to a $100 fine if they fail to submit the CRER report on time. The Attorney General's office may also be fined, or the Attorney General himself may be fined for delays in issuing legal opinions. These provisions exist because we understand that accountability and transparency are essential in public service. Bill 14 doesn't assign blame. Bill 14 ensures responsiveness and responsibility. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator Tyree. On the motion, are there any other speakers wishing to speak? No, on this motion. Are there any other senators willing to speak? The Senator from Momototsumaitai, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in opposition to this attempt at a veto override, not because I don't think the spirit behind this bill is without merit, but because I think ultimately the bill does not go far enough. When the session this bill went through the chamber occurred, there was a competing measure which looked to deny all payment and all benefits to any agencies that were delinquent on their financial documentation. That had some real teeth, and that is a version of this bill that I would support in a veto override situation. The retiring speaker spoke of unanimous votes for this. Well, of course there was. It's better than nothing, but that doesn't mean this was very good. And so for that reason, I will not be supporting this, because a nominal fine gums up the works, not just for the OPA, but for the executive branch, but for us as well. It messes up the entire harmony of the situation. We turn the OPA into fee collectors when their job should be doing the proper accounting to make sure that everything is above board, except we're turning them into compliance officers when that's not their purview. And not only that, these fees are so small that they can be ignored with a single pay adjustment to the agency head's salary. What is it, $250 a month these things are behind? That comes out to a couple $1,000s in a pay adjustment, and we could just ignore all reporting requirements. That's what really this is. This is a fee to ignore all reporting requirements. Reporting requirements optional if you just pay the fee. And I'm not sure that's a mechanism I want to put in our executive branch. You could ignore these important budgeting requirements if you just pay a fee. And I don't think that's adequate mechanism to prevent these delays in reporting that have been hampering our ability to do good budgets. And so under different circumstances, I would support a much harsher version of this bill. But as it stands, I do not see it as rising to the occasion worthy of overriding the governor's veto on something so small, on something that could set back what we're trying to do in terms of compliance, what we're trying to do in terms of getting our budget straight. We have this big, beautiful budget bill that potentially is going to blow massive holes in our budget. And so we need to make sure that the OPA is focusing on jobs the OPA can do and not being reduced to compliance officers, which they were never intended to be. So my colleagues, I ask you to join me in rejecting this veto override, and let's have a conversation about a bill with some real teeth instead of this window dressing where we could ignore the law if we pay a nominal fee. Because that's what happens when you make something a fee. It means that somebody that rich enough, somebody who does not have financial strains upon them, can just pay this and ignore it. And I think that sends the wrong message to the community, it sends the wrong message to the executive branch, and it feels like a lot of busybody work. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues to reject this veto override, and let's go to the drawing board and find a solution that has real teeth. With that, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. On the motion, are there any other senators? On this particular motion, are there any other senators? Senator Taidigui? Or, the lady from Georgia, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the override. Again, this is a bill that was passed in the last term, vetoed. Passed again this term, unanimously, if I recall, vetoed. But in the veto message, the only reasons it was vetoed, she says, is because while the bill allows agencies to request an extension to their submission of what is needed to prepare the audit for the government of Guam, if for any reason they're running late, they can ask for an extension. The veto message says, but the bill allows the OPA to unilaterally deny the request. I like that provision. I think that's the reason we should override this bill. Because if they're going to be giving the OPA, our public auditor, excuses that are just not reasonable, that are really detrimental to us, they should be denied. And we have to change the course of when we get these audits. Otherwise, they are pretty much useless to us for our budgeting purposes, maybe useful in years to come, maybe useful when in subsequent years somebody wants to go out for a bond, but for the years that we need them to do budgets, they are not useful if they are not available. And they are not available because of different excuses from the agencies. The public auditor is familiar with those reasons. He has the same challenges in his office, so I don't see him to be unreasonable in allowing an extension of time if that is necessary. And I hope that he would say absolutely not if it is unreasonable and not necessary. Because otherwise, we are denying the detriment of late audits. And that's the whole point of this bill. And I support the sponsor in trying, and the public auditor, in trying to get the audits more timely so that they are more useful for all of us in the government, especially us in the legislature. That is our objective findings, something we can rely on. The governor also in her veto message said, the bill would expand the public auditor's enforcement role, placing him in the role of an administrative judge over perceived agency slights. Really? I do not see the public auditor doing that, over perceived slights, punishing someone. She continues, the level of activism the public auditor seeks would compromise his impartiality and independence. Again, that is so hard for me to believe. It seems so almost silly that we're going to accuse a public auditor that he's going to compromise impartiality and independence by demanding that the agency submit their information timely. That seems to me his job. She continues that this impartiality and independence is a cornerstone principle for auditors. Yes, I agree completely, and I think we have no reason to believe that any of these allegations or fears would come true, no matter who's in that office. She says he should be acting objectively, free of influence, interest, or relationship. As we have learned in recent history, that objectivity is necessarily compromised when he enters an enforcement role against the agencies he is auditing. Again, I disagree. I do not see objectivity being compromised when he is enforcing what the law says is supposed to be done. That's exactly why we have a public auditor. We want our laws to be enforced. We want the data behind it to show that they were not complying with the law or that they were complying with the law. So I don't understand how that affects his objectivity. If the public auditor cannot produce the audit for us because there are delays in the agency, then he should have the ability to put some pressure on those agencies so that the entire government of Guam does not go ignorant because of one or two agencies' delays, and that we do everything in his power to make that audit timely and useful and beneficial and not detriment to the entire government of Guam. So I stand in full support of the override, and I thank the author for making this motion. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, ma'am. On the motion, are there any other speakers willing, any other senators willing to speak on this motion? Good Senator, you are recognized.
Manana Siduos to the people of Guam. Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleagues as well. First, want to congratulate the Teason High School Titans for their graduation, which is happening 2 o'clock this afternoon. Biba class 2025. I rise in support again. It's like deja vu. I forget how many times I rose in support of this bill and this veto override. I think it's really simple. You know, we have colleagues in this 38th Guam Legislature who have said that you know, they don't want to craft a budget till we get all of the audits in and done, and sadly, that's not happening as we speak. I know the Guam Department of Education has been dragging their feet on several audits, you know, whether it's the textbooks, the laptops. They've been really disattentive with the Office of the Public Auditor, and I think this, if you listen to Public Auditor Cruz when he comes in, whether it's here in the Committee of the Whole or across the hall in the public hearing room, he's very consistent in his frustration, agency to agency, talking about, I know at one time he said, gosh, I feel like I'm babysitting kids. Because it's just pura excuses after excuses after excuses. And I don't think that we need to be in the business of defending these directors' salaries. Lord knows those salaries have increased so much, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in the short time that I've been a servant here in the Guam Legislature. That's just 3 years. And we've seen raise after raise going into the pockets of these directors. So while some colleagues think that might gum up the works, I don't think it's a sticky issue at all. I think it's very crystal clear that you know, we're trying to hold a standard here for the public auditor, and if that standard is not being followed, then I'm sorry, Madam Governor, but there's consequences for that. And I think that we should absolutely hold these directors accountable. And I will be voting the same way. I'm not going to be like some of my colleagues. It's like Kalanchacha, the 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. So my vote's going to be consistent on this bill. And I support the author and the intent and attempt at this override. And I also ask my colleagues to really kind of put their money where their mouth is in a lot of this talk that was done during the campaign and here in this very young 38 Guam legislature to kind of back that up and send that message to Adelup that we are going to hold you accountable and we're not going to be rubber stampers. Sijus Masi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator. On the motion, are there any other senators willing to? General Lady from Jigu, you're recognized.
I also rise in support of the override of the governor's veto. I attended the public hearing on this measure, and I recall I asked the question to BJ Cruz, the public auditor, is this bill ridiculous or necessary? And his response was both, which was really disappointing because we should be turning in these reports to the OPA. So if he supports it, and he believes that, unfortunately, this is something that we have to do, then I support it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other senators willing to speak on this bill? Any other senators? Senator Taidigui, you're wishing to close?
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And thank you to those who stood up and spoke about this legislation and the importance of the veto override. One of my colleagues had mentioned he had a similar bill, which would fine the directors by not paying their salary. I'm not sure if we can even do that. Sounds good, but I don't think we can do that. You know, to tell you the truth, it's unfortunate that we're standing here having to do something like this in the first place. But then again, we haven't had too many issues in getting our CRER report, have we? And we haven't had too many issues getting Attorney General's providing his legal opinion. So I guess something is working. Colleagues, overriding this veto respects the legislative process, honors our votes, and protects the liability of this body to enact meaningful reform. Even in the face of executive opposition, we are a separate branch. Please remember that. Let us stand firm. Let us finish what we started. Let us do right by the people of Guam. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I move that this be placed in the third reading file for voting. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Senator. On the motion to act on the veto bill, okay, notwithstanding the objections of Imaga, Haga, and Guahan, okay, are there any objections? There's one objection. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion carries. Senator Calvo, good lady from Senator Tali, are you done? Okay. Senator Calvo, you recognized? Then I'll get to you.
Buenas and half a day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Notwithstanding the House rules, I am making a motion to place on the session agenda the appointment of Felix C. Benavente to serve as a member, Hagatna Restoration Redevelopment Authority Board of Commissioners.
On the motion, are there any objections? No objections. So ordered. Ma'am, you can proceed.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. Notwithstanding the House rules, I am making a motion to place on the session agenda the appointment of Cristina R. Flores to serve as a member of Guam Council on the Arts and Humanities Agency Board of Directors.
On the motion, are there any objections? No objections, so ordered. Senator Calvo, you're recognized.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. Notwithstanding the House rules, I am making a motion to place on the session agenda the appointment of Patricia Ann Perez Ada to serve as a member of Hagatna Restoration and Redevelopment Authority Board of Commissioners.
On the motion, are there any objections? No objections, so ordered. We're still in motions. Good Senator from Barragata, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to my colleagues. I move to place Bill 89-38 as a third item on the agenda and basically switch the ordering. So Bill 13-38 will be the fourth item of the agenda.
So you want to switch Bill 38?
Sorry, Bill 89.
Okay.
So as a third item, and 13 will move down to the fourth item.
Clerk, did you get that? Okay. On the motion?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to know why. And the reason why, because I like to move Bill 6 all the way up to the top then, if that's the case.
What she was doing is just moving from her spot to Senator Talai's spot. She wasn't moving her bill in.
No, I heard 89 to switch of 13. So I just bring clarity.
Wish to clarify, Senator Parrish?
Yes, so my classmate passed away and I would like to attend the funeral services. So I wanted to spend more time. Thank you.
What she was asking for is to move Bill 89, which is at slot 4, to slot 3, which is by Bill 13, then move 13 to slot 4. It's just a switch. And my understanding is you have already got the agreement with the good senator you're switching with, Senator Talai? Okay. On that motion? No objection? No objection to the motion? So ordered. Good Senator Talai, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to clarify. So I printed out the agenda from the drive, but it's different from the agenda that was sent out in the notices that went out to the public. And I guess if you could just, I didn't hear a motion to rearrange the order of the agenda. So maybe, I don't know, if you could just clarify, because so the agenda that I'm looking at from the drive has, yeah, the bills in different order than they were in the published notice.
The motion that was, the agenda on the drive was the bills that were approved by the Committee on Rules to be placed on the agenda. The placement of the bills in the session floor is at my okay, is a decision that I made. And that decision was made based on a numerical order and an order that was, okay? And it was discussed in the Committee on Rules.
Right. But it was not approved by a motion. So the Committee on Rules approved an agenda that was sent out to the public, and now our agenda's different. That's all I'm saying. Is that correct? And that was done, you're saying, by the speaker without a motion?
Yes, it was. Okay? Yes, it was. All bills that were approved by the Committee on Rules and concurrences that were committed, okay, are on the session agenda. The order of which it is presented now for session is at the discretion of the speaker.
Well, I'm just noting that our public notice from the legislature that went out differs. The agenda that we published in accordance with the open government law is different than the agenda that we are now looking at on our desk.
So noted. So noted. Okay. Any motions? The Senator from MTM, you recognize? On motions. Or motions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, notwithstanding House rules, I'd like to make a motion to add Bill number 9-38, COR, to the session agenda, and this is a bill to extend the $100 power credits, and I'd like to put it at the end of the session agenda.
On the motion to put Bill 9-38, notwithstanding the House rules, I have to, okay, I have to address it. Okay, there is an objection to it. We are in motions. Yes, we are. We are in motions. Let's take a 1-minute recess for the clerk to check on committee report. Back in session. Senator, your motion is going to be ruled out of order. There is no committee report, so it cannot be considered, even notwithstanding. Okay.
I disagree with the ruling of the chair. This is a bill we've done before. I think that we can expedite this for the need of the people, and I'd like to vote to overrule the ruling of the chair. I think we should, ruling of the speaker, I think we should vote for the power credits.
On the motion to overrule the decision of the chair, to rule his initial motion notwithstanding out of order, there being no committee report. Okay, on the motion to overrule the chair, all those in favor of overruling the chair's decision?
For the power credit, guys, let's do it.
Please indicate. Senator, we'll take a 1-minute recess. What's up? Back from recess. There is a motion to overrule the ruling of the chair. Okay, there is an objection. All those in favor of overruling the chair, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Okay. Any other motions? Motions? Good Senator from EPAN?
Mr. Speaker. Actually, I rise to a point of inquiry. If you're able to, with all due respect, point to the rule that you believe allows you to reorder the session agenda without a motion. Yeah, if you could, is there a rule that allows you to do this without a motion? And if you could just, for the benefit of the people watching, explain how it is that having session every month created this scenario, every other month created this scenario where now we have all these bills and we're trying to, squeeze them into just a few days of session. So if you could just explain, because I know you had sent out a memo, but I don't believe that memo was made public. So for people watching or wondering why they have one agenda and then they have another, I mean, even me, I'm confused where my bill is on the agenda. So if you could just explain the memo you sent out and how you believe that you have the authority to do this without a motion supported by the body.
Mr. Speaker, if I may, on a point of information.
Say your point of information.
Based on the Committee on Rules, I was under the impression at the end, when we were having open discussion on the motion that was made, for you to choose a bill for each representative because of how many bills we had on the agenda, and that the senator's bill would be represented, and that we would put the bill accordingly, and then based on what was provided, a motion was made, there was no objection, so that's how this motion came to play while we were in the Committee on the Rules. That's the way I understood it.
There was no motion, Mr. Speaker.
There was a motion.
I watched the meeting, and what I saw was in the brief extension of remarks, you had expressed frustration that, because we only have session every other month now under this new majority, that there's just so many bills to deal with, and that you had put out a memo basically saying that we were going to arrange the bills based on zodiac sign, for lack of a better, the birthday, which I don't, so I don't see that in the, I don't see that in the rules, Mr. Speaker, so I'd just like you to explain to the people of Guam, how that happened.
Again, it is the responsibility of the Committee on Rules to provide, to this body, to the Speaker, to me, a list of bills that have been approved, have cleared, as well as the concurrences that have cleared the Committee on Rules for consideration on session agenda. It has been my discretion, is my determination as to the order of the bills to be placed on the agenda, recognizing that there are over at least 20, there are 26, I am speaking, Senator Barnett, please, over 26 bills, and recognizing the time frame that we have to be able to discuss the bills, I gave the difference to provide senators the opportunity, those senators that have more than one bill, to provide a listing, a priority of which bills they want to be heard, in the bills, which I believe is fair. So it is my discretion to be able to order the bill, how the bills are going to be presented. Just such as it is the ruling of the body, the discretion of the body to move bills the way they want to be able to move, provided there is, there are 8 votes to do so. And those bills, the order, the priority of those bills were based on birth dates. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
That's kind of my point, is that, the Committee on Rules came out with one agenda, and then after the Committee on Rules meeting, you put out a memo asking for a birthday and then asking what bill to, so I don't know where that is in the rules. I've only been a senator 3 years, but we never did it that way. And I understand what you're saying, but that determination for this new agenda wasn't made in the Committee on Rules meeting setting.
Would you like to cite for me where in the standing?
I don't know. You could just do a motion to adopt this alphabetical date of birth agenda.
Point of order. Please state your point of order.
So just Mr. Speaker, I'd like to state a point of order that According to our rules, the Committee on Rules shall set the session agenda for the next legislative day and may add items to be considered under the various categories. It shall be published, notice of session agenda so adopted shall be published on the Legislature and Guahan's official website within 24 hours of its adoption. So that was done. The Committee on Rules adopted an agenda and it was published. It says, so that, in my opinion, is, well, in my understanding from the rule, is what we're supposed to be following. However, unless there is no agenda. But in the absence of a session agenda adopted by the Committee on Rules, Legislature and Guahan by 8 votes may adopt a session agenda. And of course, we may amend our session agenda by 8 votes. So it's just very clear that it requires votes to rearrange the agenda, and I would just like to stick to that rule, comply with that rule, because otherwise we have a situation where the agenda can be rearranged. For example, this one, we received notice on the drive yesterday, but that's not the notice that we received, in the 5 days notice according to the open government. Now, if what, my colleague from Manilao or Talampago is saying was correct, was accurate, that there was a motion in the Committee on Rules to rearrange the agenda this way, then that's different. But I watched that hearing as well, did not see a motion like that. I saw discussion, but not a motion. So I expected that there would be some motion sometime that makes it very clear according to our rules what we have adopted in lieu of the session agenda adopted by the Committee on Rules during that meeting.
Thank you very much.
This is rule.
So noted.
Thank you.
Any other motion? Any other motion? Motions? No motions? Any other motion? Senator Salas-Matson, are you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to place in the voting file from the Committee on Health and Veterans Affairs the nomination of Krista L. Blankenship to serve as a member, medical community representative of the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority Board of Trustees with the recommendation to confirm.
Before we get to that, we're still in motions. That will be concurrence.
Okay, so not
Okay?
yet.
Let's just dispense of this section first, okay?
Thank you.
Any other motions? Okay, now we're in legislative concurrence. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're very
Once
welcome.
again, I move to place in the voting file from the Committee on Health and Veterans Affairs the nomination of Krista L. Blankenship to serve as a member, the medical community representative to the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority Board of Trustees with the recommendation to confirm.
On the motion for the nomination of Krista L. Blankenship to serve as a member, medical community representative to the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority Board of Trustees, are there any objections? No objections? So ordered. Senator Cowell, good Senator from Barragata, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to place in the voting file from the Committee on Child Welfare, Youth Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women's Affairs, Disability Services, the Arts, Culture, Historic Preservation, and Agatna Restoration, the nomination of Marvin Q. Aguilar to serve as a member, a planning alternate representative of the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board with the recommendation to confirm.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Good Senator from Barragata, Senator Borja, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to place in the voting file from the Committee on Education, Libraries, and Public Broadcasting the nomination of Dolores Lily C. Bordalio, DBA, to serve as a member, Community at Large Representative of the Guam Commission for Educator Certification with the recommendation to confirm.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Calvo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to place in the voting file from the Committee on Child Welfare, Youth Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women's Affairs, Disability Services, the Arts, Culture, Historic Preservation, and Agatna Restoration, hereby reports out the nomination of Nicole A. Calvo to serve as a member, planning representative of the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board, with a recommendation to do confirm.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Vice Speaker, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to place into the voting file from the Committee on Land, Environment, Housing, Agriculture, Parks, and Infrastructure the nomination of Stephen P. Carbolito to serve as a member of the Guam Environmental Protection Agency Board of Directors, with the recommendation to do confirm.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Lohan, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to put in voting file from the Committee on Transportation, Tourism, Customs, Utilities, Federal and Foreign Affairs, the nomination of Ho as Un to serve as a member of the Guam Visitors Bureau Board of Directors, with a recommendation to do confirm.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Lohan, you still recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's information still pending from the Governor's office, so the nomination of Mr. Mark B.C. Mendiola, I'd like to move it to the voting file later on in the session.
Okay. So,
thank you.
Okay. Vice Speaker, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to place into the voting file from the Committee on Land, Environment, Housing, Agriculture, Parks, and Infrastructure the nomination of Heather M. Kitigua, PC, to serve as a member of the Guam Environmental Protection Agency Board of Directors, with the recommendation to report out only.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Lohan, you are recognized again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to place in the voting file from the Committee on Transportation, Tourism, Customs, Utilities, Federal and Foreign Affairs, a nomination of Conchita S. Antitano to serve as a member of the Port Authority Board of Directors, with a recommendation to confirm.
On the motion, there is an objection. Okay. On the motion, there is an objection. Okay. Those in favor of the motion to place the nomination of Conchita S. Antitano to serve as a member of the Port Authority of Guam Board of Directors, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion carries. Senator Cabo.
Mr. Chair, I move to place in the voting file from the Committee on Child Welfare, Youth Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women's Affairs, Disability Services, the Arts, Culture, Historic Preservation, and Agatna Restoration the nomination of Felix C. Benavente to serve as a member of Agatna Restoration Redevelopment Authority Board of Commissioners, with a recommendation to do confirm.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Cabo, you can proceed.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. I move to place in the voting file from the Committee on Child Welfare, Youth Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women's Affairs, Disability Services, the Arts, Culture, Historic Preservation, and Agatna Restoration the nomination of Christina R. Flores to serve as a member of Guam Council on the Arts and Humanities Agency Board of Directors, with a recommendation to do confirm.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Calvo, you're still recognized.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. I move to place in the voting file from the Committee on Child Welfare, Youth Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women's Affairs, Disability Services, the Arts, Culture, Historic Preservation, and Agatna Restoration, the nomination of Patricia Ann Perez Ada to serve as a member of Agatna Restoration Redevelopment Authority Board of Commissioners, with a recommendation to do confirm.
On that motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries.
Sijus Masi, Mr. Speaker.
You're very welcome. We're done with concurrences. All right, let's take a 1-minute recess before we move on to second reading. 1-minute recess. Before we proceed, can everybody please check to see your connectivity? We're good? Okay, we're ready to go? Legislature's back in session. We're now in the second reading. First bill, bill number 7838 COR. Gentle lady from Maragata, you are recognized.
Sijus Masi, again, Mr. Speaker. Half a day in Buenos. Mr. Speaker, Vice Speaker, and esteemed colleagues of the 38th Guam Legislature. Today I rise in strong support of Bill 7838 COR, a measure that strengthens Guam's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, and expands access to prepared meals for vulnerable residents. Food security affects every aspect of life on Guam. When individuals struggle to access nutritious meals, the consequences extend beyond hunger. They impact health outcomes, financial stability, and economic growth. This bill responds to these challenges by ensuring that those most in need, including seniors, individuals with disabilities, and homeless individuals, can access ready-to-eat meals through SNAP. SNAP is an essential program that helps thousands of households in Guam be able to afford food. Each year, the island receives over 100 million in federal SNAP allocations, supporting families and fueling local businesses. The program itself plays an integral role in the economy, with studies showing that every $1 spent on SNAP generates $1.54 in economic activity. Keeping these federal dollars circulating on Guam benefits restaurants, retailers, and agricultural producers. The elderly, individuals with disabilities, and individuals that are homeless residents often face significant barriers to meal preparation. Without access to kitchen facilities or the ability to cook independently, food insecurity becomes an even greater challenge or threat. Malnutrition leads to chronic health conditions such as diabetes, heart diseases, and cognitive decline, which increase healthcare costs and strain public resources. Investing in food security reduces these burdens, allowing individuals to maintain their health while lowering the government's long-term expenditures. One way to tackle this issue is through Guam's participation in the Restaurant Meals Program, or RMP. This program extends SNAP benefits to allow eligible recipients to purchase prepared meals at authorized restaurants using their EBT cards. Individuals who cannot prepare meals themselves, such as seniors, those with disabilities, homeless individuals, and their spouses, gain the ability to access hot, ready-to-eat meals from approved establishments. Implementing RMP requires states to authorize and oversee participation. Restaurants must apply and be approved by the USDA to accept SNAP payments for prepared meals. Once enrolled, SNAP recipients can use their EBT card just as they would as the grocery stores, ensuring access to immediate and nutritious food options. Not only grocery stores, mom and pop stores, and tiny little operations. Ensuring access for discounted pricing for SNAP participants. Mr. Speaker, before I move forward and continue and finish my opening remarks, I would like to move and place Bill 78-38 COR2 as amended into the third reading file.
Okay, on the motion, you can continue.
And now I shall continue my conversation.
Thank you.
Seduce Masi. So by implementing RMP, it requires states to authorize and oversee participation. Restaurants must apply to be approved by the USDA and accept SNAP payments for prepared meals. Once enrolled, SNAP recipients can use their EBT card just as they would at mom and pop stores, convenience stores, grocery stores, etc., ensuring access to immediate and nutritional food options. Participating restaurants must offer discounted pricing for SNAP participants, further improving affordability. The Guam Department of Public Health and Social Services, DPHSS, manages the program, ensuring compliance with federal regulations. The benefits of RMP reach across Guam's communities. The program improves nutritional access for residents who struggle with meal preparation. It stimulates Guam's economy by keeping federal SNAP dollars within the food service industry and reduces reliance on emergency food aid. Supporting food security initiatives directly mitigates healthcare costs as well, associated with malnutrition, and prevents unnecessary hospitalization. Currently, the RMP, or the Restaurant Meals Program, is being implemented in 9 states: Arizona, California, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New York, Rhode Island, and Virginia. California, for example, has expanded its program to include all 58 counties, demonstrating the potential for widespread impact across the nation. Over 3,000 restaurants are participating in the RMP, providing a vital service to those who need it most, and providing an economic aid to the community. These states have demonstrated that RMP can be an effective tool in addressing food insecurity while supporting local economies. Success stories from these jurisdictions highlight how the program has improved access to meals for vulnerable populations, reduced strain on emergency food services, and provided economic opportunities for the industry. The state of Massachusetts has recently adopted RMP and has taken an innovative approach by becoming the first state to open program to food trucks, an initiative that I would like to visit in the future. This expansion allows SNAP recipients to purchase meals from mobile vendors, increasingly accessibility for individuals who may not have easy access to traditional restaurants. The inclusion of food trucks broadened the reach of the program, ensuring the nutrition meals are available in more locations, particularly in underserved communities. Think about it. In all the villages of Guam, there's so many little mom and pop stores and hole-in-the-wall restaurants operations. By voting on this bill, we are actually ensuring that we're helping those tiny little businesses all around the villages of Guam. The Massachusetts model demonstrates how RMP can evolve to meet the needs of diverse populations while supporting local businesses. More states are now working to adopt RNP within their jurisdictions, recognizing its potential to enhance food security and economic stability. Currently, 5 states are actively applying for the Restaurant Meals Program, including Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Oregon. Oregon is the furthest along, having passed Senate Bill 1585 to authorize a pilot RMP program. The state has formed a task force to design the program, ensuring it meets the needs of seniors, individuals with disabilities, and unhoused populations. One concern raised about implementation of the RMP is the financial strain of Guam's budget. Establishing the program requires administrative resources, staff training, and technological upgrades to ensure compliance with federal SNAP regulations. While initial cost exists, funding strategies from other jurisdictions demonstrate that such programs can be successfully implemented without excessive financial burden. For example, states such as California and Illinois have successfully leveraged federal technical assistance grants to support implementation costs. Additionally, Guam's Department of Public Health and Social Services can seek funding through federal agencies of public-private partnerships, easing financial strain and ensuring that the program is economically sustainable. Some critics argue that requiring restaurants to offer meals at concession prices while maintaining strict health and safety standards may limit participation. However, data from other states shows that when proper incentives and streamlined application processes are in place, restaurants' participation significantly increases. For example, California successfully onboarded over 3,000 restaurants by simplifying the enrollment process and providing technical assistance to vendors. Likewise, Massachusetts expanded RMP to include food trucks, improving accessibility for SNAP recipients while diversifying vendors' participation. By following similar models, Guam can ensure restaurant enrollment while maintaining quality and compliance. Critics highlight concerns about verifying eligible recipients' efficiency, featuring delays or errors in processing. However, states such as Michigan and Rhode Island have implemented real-time eligibility verification into the electronic benefit transfer or EBT card systems, streamlining the process for SNAP recipients. Guam can integrate automated verification tools, minimizing administrative burdens while ensuring only eligible participants access the program. Data sharing agreements with federal agencies further improve accuracy, ensuring efficient verification processes. While the RMP meals expand meals options for vulnerable population, critics argue that individuals in remote areas or those with mobility challenges may still face barriers. Other states have tackled this issue by introducing mobile food vendors and meal delivery services as part of this program. For example, Massachusetts became the first state to allow food trucks to participate in RMP, increasing access to prepared meals. Illinois and Maryland has partnered with nonprofit organizations to facilitate meal delivery services for SNAP recipients who cannot reach restaurants. Guam can adopt similar models, ensuring program accessibility for all eligible individuals. Concerns regarding fraud or misuse of SNAP benefits have also been raised. emphasizing the need for monitoring systems to ensure accountability. Other states have successfully implemented fraud prevention frameworks, including transaction monitoring, periodic audits, and compliance penalties. For instance, California uses transaction monitoring algorithms to flag irregular spending patterns, ensuring responsible use of benefits. Michigan and Rhode Island have introduced public reporting systems, allowing community members to anonymously report suspected fraud. Guam can integrate similar safeguards to prevent misuse while maintaining accessibility. The success of RMP depends on securing federal approval, which some argue may involve complex regulatory process. However, other states have streamlined federal approval by aligning proposals with existing SNAP frameworks and conducting pilot programs. For example, New York secured approval by launching a pilot program before expanding statewide, demonstrating effectiveness before full-scale implementation. Similarly, Oregon passed Senate Bill 1585 allowing phased expansion. Guam can work closely with USDA and follow similar strategies to expedite approval. Public support for Bill number 7838 has been overwhelming. During the public hearing, advocacy groups, local businesses, and residents expressed strong backing for the measure, emphasizing its potential create lasting improvements in Guam's food security system. The bill received strong support from Catholic Social Services, Department of Integrated Services for Individuals with Disabilities, Guam Public Defenders Service Corporation, Department of Public Health and Social Services, Civil Law Center, Elderly Justice Center, Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce, Gumamami, Guam Homeless Coalition, and much more. Engagement on social media further confirms that expanding SNAP access is widely recognized as a necessary step in improving community well-being beyond public enthusiasm. This initiative is fiscally sound. In collaboration with the Office of the Finance and Budget OFB, we identified $500,000 in necessary funding as estimated by DPHSS, which can be sourced from projected lapse funds within DPHSS from fiscal year 2025. This approach ensures the program can move forward without placing additional financial strain on the government. I introduced Bill number 78-38 because I firmly believe that no one in our community should go hungry, especially those most at risk. Food insecurity is not just about hunger. It's about health, dignity, and the ability to live a full and meaningful life. By expanding access to prepared meals, we can reduce the burden on families, improve nutrition, and support the well-being of our community. Guam's economic recovery remains an ongoing effort. In the wake of Typhoon Mawar and the COVID-19 pandemic, tourism is still regaining momentum. In the meantime, the government must prioritize policies that strengthen local communities. Ensuring SNAP recipients can access prepared meals is a practical step towards greater stability, providing immediate relief to those in need, while supporting businesses in the food service sector. Bill number 78-38 presents an opportunity to make a meaningful progress in securing food accessibility for vulnerable residents, reinforcing economic stability, and promoting responsible governance. This initiative is modeled after successful programs in other states, and I am confident that I can make a significant difference here on Guam, that we, along with you guys, can make a significant difference. However, the success of this legislation depends on the collaboration and input from all of you.
Mr. Speaker, the time expired several minutes ago. And I'm only stating that because, you guys have been very strict about the time limits. Cesar Swansea.
Thank you very much. Can you please wrap
Thank
it
you,
up?
Senator Barnett. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues. Sejus Mase, and I look forward to working with each one of you to advance this legislation.
Thank you very much. On the motion, on the bill, anybody wishing to speak on the bill? Good gentleman from MTM, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this bill. I think one of the best things that we can do as a society is everything we can to feed the hungry among us. This life we all live in is already hard enough, and restricting the type of foods people have access to with their benefits is a sort of thing that sometimes takes us a step back when we don't consider some of the impacts this has on people who need a little bit more help and a little bit more compassion. A lot of times for people that have, that eat out to get hot foods, we know that this is generally more expensive than when we eat at home. But at the same time, there is a convenience and expediency that we pay for. And for a lot of us, we take that for granted. But for some people, they are living with very difficult home situations. Sometimes there is a situation where it's a single parent trying to care for multiple dependents. Sometimes it's a caretaker who doesn't have enough time to balance everything they need to do between their duties to maintain themselves and their duties to care for their manamko. And in these situations, as somebody who has been a caretaker, I appreciate the ability to get hot food at a moment's notice. I myself have never been part of the SNAP program, but I have been a person who has had difficulties in life. And in those difficulties, sometimes I leaned on the convenience of pre-prepared foods to fill the gaps in my life that I otherwise couldn't dedicate the proper time to. That being said, I do have a few questions for the author regarding this bill, mainly because of the coming instability from the big, beautiful Republican bill in Washington. That bill might have a fantastic amount of destabilizing effects on our own local budget, and so I think it's important that we ask ourselves some of these questions. Particularly the impact of H.R. 1 on SNAP funding. The U.S. House of H.R. introduced the One Big Beautiful Act, and it introduces new state cost sharing for SNAP benefits, requiring states and territories to cover 5% of benefit costs and up to 25% if error rates are high by 2028. How will this affect Guam's ability to fund the restaurant meals program if Guam must suddenly shoulder 5 to 25% of SNAP benefit payments? Do we have a plan to absorb those costs for our RMP participants without jeopardizing other services?
You have a question to the?
Yes, that's the question.
You want to yield? Okay, you asked?
Yes.
Okay. Will the author of the legislation yield to the question? It seemed like a...
Yeah, if we have to...
that question?
Yeah, if we have to pay 5 to 25% of SNAP benefit payments, do we have a plan to absorb those costs for our RMP participants without jeopardizing other services?
Would the author yield to the question? Would you like to yield to the question, ma'am?
Can you repeat your, sorry, what was the question again? Can you combine it, please?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So in the House budget bill, there's a provision that might potentially ask the local government to shoulder 5 to 25% of the SNAP benefit payments. And so I'm wondering if that change is to go through in the House budget, do we have a plan on how we're going to absorb those costs?
First and foremost, thank you, for the question from the gentleman from MTM. First, I'd like to clarify that this RMP bill is really just an extension program, an additional option for us under the SNAP. Subject to federal approval and funding availability, sure. Section 2707A explicitly conditions implementation of the RMP on an identified funding source and federal approval. So I actually had a recent sit down with Office of the Finance Budget, and we have discussed that, hold on. That we have identified two viable options that center on tapping into DPHSS. Unexpended, sorry. OEB has identified two viable options that center on tapping into DPHSS unexpended or lapsed funds. One involves reviewing prior fiscal year balance that may still be eligible for legislative authorization, and the other looks at current year lapse projections that could be strategically directed to support the program. While the addition of the RMP can increase administrative burden and require local cost sharing, Bill number 78-38 is structured to prevent unfunded mandates, allowing the government to move forward only if sustainable funding sources are available. The key will be securing targeted local appropriations or external grants to absorb cost-sharing requirements without draining resources from essential public services.
Did that answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the answer because, no, I do wholeheartedly support this bill, and if it comes to a vote in front of me, I will be voting yes on it. But again, I said it's important that we answer and ask some of these questions because there is a lot of incoming instability from the Republican regime stateside that we need to prepare for. I think we all remember how difficult it was last time they blew a massive hole in our budget, and I think it's important for us to be prepared this time. The other thing that I'm concerned with, because I really appreciate that she says that we're looking to target local funding, but my other concern is also with the eligibility changes and program viability just overall. Another provision in HR 1 would tighten SNAP eligibility nationwide, not just on Guam, but everywhere. So for example, one of them is raising the general work requirements to age 64 from 49, and only exempting parents with children under 7 instead of under 18. So for example, if you were a 50-year-old single mother right now who had an 8-year-old kid, you would be good to go to have your SNAP benefits without having to have job search requirements, because your job is taking care of your kids. That's a very important job, making sure that they're well-fed, going to school, doing what they need to do so that they become productive members of society. But under these House rule changes, now that 50-year-old single mother with a child over 8 is now going to have their whole life turned upside down. And so my concern is if federal policy reduces the number of eligible recipients on Guam, how will that impact the RMP's reach? Because this age requirement is very significant, going from 46 to 64. And so does the author have any idea of how that will be projected to affect the RMP program, that's knock-on effect?
So that's a question for the author.
Yes, sir.
Will the author yield to the question? Would you like to yield to the question? Normal procedure is you direct the question to me and, okay? Would you like to yield to the question?
Sure.
You can proceed.
To answer the question of the good gentleman from MTM, most of these, this RMP program, most of these will depend on the guidelines that is set by DPHSS or Department of Public Health. So basically, because it's a program that really does not require additional funding for SNAP, this is only an extension of the program, extension of the offering under SNAP. So basically, we will have to wait for the regulations and the guidelines from DPHSS.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And so, yeah, thank you to the retiring speaker for answering those questions. I appreciate your foresight in this matter. Where was I here? And yeah, so I want to go back to some of the stuff said during the public hearing. The fiscal note for Bill 7838 does not include a concrete cost estimate, yet DPHSS has informally indicated that the RMP would cost around $1 million to implement with no identified funding source. In testimony, DPHSS warned there are no additional federal dollars for this extension and estimated roughly $400,000 in first-year startup cost, basically a reprogramming of the EBT system, plus an implementation fee of about $70,000, an ongoing EBT service fee of about $2,500 to $30,000 annually, as well as new staff for compliance and outreach. How does the author intend to fund this program locally? I know there's a lot of questions if it's fiscally responsible to move forward without the clear appropriation or funding plan to cover these costs, but I think the money to fund this program is there. I think that between the upcoming budget season and some excess revenue, I think we can pay for this program. But I would like to pose the question to the primary author: what kind of ideas did she have to cover this $1 million deficit in terms of startup costs we needed?
Did the author yield to the question?
Thank you for that question again. To answer the gentleman from MTM's question, the total cost to roll out this is $470,000, right? And identifying funding should be put in place. DPHSS should help facilitate and look for the funding. Now, we're looking into the lapses at the moment. I met with OFB and DPHS to identify potential lapse funding reserves that the department can be authorized by this body to use for this particular purpose. The projected cost is about $500,000. And the 1 million figure is unsubstantiated. RMP is specifically designed. I wanted to go back also with, to address your question earlier, wherein RMP is designed for elderly individuals, persons with disability, and those experiencing homelessness, groups that are generally exempt from the new work requirements. Therefore, eligibility for RMP should remain largely unchanged for its core recipients. Overall, while RMP eligibility requirements for vulnerable groups remain intact, changes to broader SNAP eligibility and Guam's cost-sharing obligations may influence how the program is implemented locally. Right now, we're on standby, of course, with federal cuts and the bill that you have mentioned. As of today, what we need to do is to maintain program viability. Whether we experience the effects of the cut, challenges of federal cuts, Guam must prepare for dynamic SNAP eligibility shifts and be ready to adjust the program scope, funding model, or complementary supports accordingly. Now, I think more importantly, a continued collaboration and discussion with Department of Health, DPHSS, must continue, moving forward, especially once this bill is passed. And thank you for expressing that you support this bill. Gentleman from MTM, appreciate it. Si Jus Masi as well, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. I appreciate the retiring speaker talking about how other states have done it and some of the pitfalls they've fallen into. And there's a couple particular pitfalls I ran into when I looked into my research on this. Michigan, for example, eliminated its RMP in 2013, citing concerns that the program was promoting poor nutrition. And this is a argument we've heard in the past when it comes to public food benefits, that when you allow things like hot food, it leads to poor nutritional outcomes. But I like to err on the side of the individual, entrusting them to make the right choices when given freedom. And in that regard, I reject that argument, but at the same time, we need to give it a fair hearing. So, what kind of guardrails do we have to make sure that that we don't lead to poor nutritional outcomes by expanding the program in this way? And the other pitfall is, the other state I looked at was Illinois. They introduced their program 2 years ago, but they're having problems getting it off the ground because of bureaucratic problems with the signups. And so I feel like it's the procurement debate all over again, right? But now it's on the public sector level. Is there any plans to put guardrails or potentially dismantle some of the hang-ups that would prevent restaurants from taking part in this program? Because I would completely support deregulating this in such a way as to get the maximum amount of spread on this program. So I guess that's my question. Like, what guardrails do we have to make sure that we don't lead to poor nutritional outcomes? And what can we do to help remove the red tape so more restaurants can take part of this program?
That's a question you yield.
That's my question, sir.
For the author, yield to the question.
Ultimately, we're not really reinventing a program. This is already in place in many states. And I don't see any reason why Guam should not take part in it, because this is something that takes care of vulnerable population. And as policymakers, lawmakers, isn't that one of the things we pledge to help our community? I think that deliberating this is a delay, and I think that Ultimately, the program is about food security and choice, not promoting unhealthy eating. Guam can further refine restaurants' eligibility criteria and public awareness campaigns to emphasize nutritious meal selection while maintaining accessibility for those in need. Now, EBT holders don't just go to restaurants that are accredited and be able to order in any meal. A participating restaurant must be able to offer a set meal, nutritious, and has value, a discounted price. I think this bill needs to move forward. Any delay to this is a loss to our community. It's already in place. EBT is EBT is already in place here on Guam. So this is just an additional option under EBT, additional options for individuals that are vulnerable. So that's all I can say. The faster we implement this, the faster we can go on the regulations, and the faster we can roll out. So thank you again, gentlemen from MTM.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your willingness to answer these questions. So, I have one last one. This one doesn't need an answer. It's more of a rhetorical question for the whole body. Is just, why not wait? Now, let me preface this by saying if this bill were to come before me, I would absolutely vote for it. But with the absolute chaos of the big, beautiful bill, in light of these looming federal changes, is it prudent to proceed with RMP implementation right now? H.R. 1 has only passed the House and could significantly alter SNAP by the time federal budget is finalized. So we need to ask ourselves, do we risk committing local resources to a program that might be curtailed by federal law in the next few months? Or is it wiser to wait until the federal budget and SNAP reforms are settled? Or, maybe at least include a sunset clause or a trigger of some sort before we invest so heavily in this program. Now, I agree with the retiring speaker. I think it's better for us not to wait. I think whatever funds we have available now, we commit it, whether it's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. Let's get people fed. Let's remove the red tape. Let's get it done. But this body is not guided by my desires alone. This is a collaborative body, and this is a decision we all make together. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise as a fiscal conservative who is also deeply compassionate about caring for our most vulnerable. I wholeheartedly support the intent of this bill, ensuring our homeless, our elderly, and disabled neighbors can get a hot meal. But I also have a duty to ask the questions to make sure we do so in a responsible, sustained way given the fiscal uncertainties. But I will say, if this bill were to come before me, I would vote in the affirmative. I would vote yes. This issue hits very close to home for me. As many of you know, I cared for my father during his battle with Parkinson's disease. I saw firsthand how difficult it was for him to prepare meals. That experience taught me that sometimes ready-to-eat meals isn't a luxury. It's a lifeline. I carry that lesson into this discussion, which is also why I sincerely applaud Senator Calvo for her passion for helping those who can't easily cook for themselves. At the same time, we cannot ignore the elephant in the room. Washington's instability with programs like SNAP, with federal changes on the horizon, could suddenly ask Guam to pick up part of the tab in a significant way. So being cautioned here isn't a lack of compassion. It's about protecting this program from national Republican chaos. So Senator Calvo, you have my support for the goal of the Meals at Risk Household Act. I sincerely give that to you. I wanted to see it succeed, but I also wanted to build it on solid ground. So let's incorporate safeguards, let's appropriate more funding than we think we need, and let's actually get a number for what the needs of this program are going to be. By making sure we do this program right, we honor the people, we honor the taxpayers, and we honor ourselves, because how we take care of people who are struggling the most in the society speaks to the quality of our society. And I would like our character to be that of the very highest. So I extend again my sincere gratitude to Senator Calvo for her leadership and collaboration on this issue. This is a prime example of how we can work across the aisle, marrying fiscal responsibility with human compassion. I ask my colleagues to support that, and with that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would Senator from Talafofo you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in support of Bill 78-38. Mr. Speaker, we as a body need to do much more to support the economy in these uncertain times, but also to support the underserved population of our island society. This measure is a strong first step to get the restaurant meals program underway. This will be a community effort to get underway. Now, Guam Public Health will not be alone in this entire effort. This is a significant and very voluntary option for Guam to allow our SNAP clients who might not be able to prepare meals for themselves or who do not have permanent housing for storing and preparing food to get it. Again, Bill 78 is part of the process to get the program underway. There's going to be a huge list, Mr. Speaker, from folks like our friends at the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce and Guam's entire service industry. I'm sure our friends at the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, they're watching this today. They are going to be a huge voice, and they're going to have a role in this too. Guam will set requirements that need to be signed off by the federal government. There's no push, Mr. Speaker, that we are aware of to take us away from this particular work. There's no push from the federal government today to derail the entirety of the SNAP program. Yes, there's an education process, Mr. Speaker, that this, once we get underway, that's going to happen. To add, for example, the point-in-sale devices. They're going to have to break off sales across our government, across our community related to this program. It's going to happen amongst a bunch of other issues, Mr. Speaker. I'm confident that public health will work closely with the Food and Nutrition Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture to make this particular program work. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. It will be a significant process. We will get food to our people through the restaurant meals program. Again, a process that we're going to apply for, and we're going to work closely with FNS to make happen. I just want to say, if I can, one more thing, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the author for her work on this, and I would like to ask the author that I be added as a co-author to Bill 7838 at this time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the time.
Thank you very much, Senator. The gentle lady from Order Chalampago and Ranking Member, you are recognized, ma'am.
Si Jus Masi Dan Manana Si Jus, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleagues, Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to briefly speak on this Measure Bill 78-38 and to share with this body that I support the efforts. And thank the good author from, I guess, Barragata or Mighty, that this is a very good bill. This bill 78-38 establishes a new program that will allow those who are on SNAP benefits to that these benefits be used to purchase hot foods from restaurants. And the why to this, Mr. Speaker, would be to literally look at combating hunger and this effort as we look at the number of residents, even on our island, who receive this SNAP benefit, Mr. Speaker, is quite large. When you look at 1 of 5 of Guam residents rely on these benefits called the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. When I was looking at the financial report that came in and the utilization of this and what the impact would be, it said it wouldn't. It didn't have a right amount based on what public health would have to do to make this program work in the meantime. So I just want to say that when we look at those who would be participating in this, the provision that provides for them would be the restaurants who want to do this program. My colleague from GIGO and I were talking about it, that the restaurants would literally have to apply and should submit an application to be approved under the process, working with the department to become that SNAP provider. And I just want to say that I'm hoping that with all the provisions and the sections that are in this, that the Department of Public Health will definitely do its due diligence, and those who are interested in being a part of this program, that they would take the time to apply like everything else the government has to offer. So in that effort, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill 78-38 and literally ask the good author if she could also include me as a co-sponsor to this bill. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. Saina Masi.
You're very welcome. Any other senators who wish to speak on the bill? Any other senator? Good senator from GIGO.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the bill. You know, everybody wants to talk about the process. Let's get the bill passed so we can start the process. If we're worried about the cost, you know, public health has a mechanism in place where we can put it in the budget where they can fund it, and that whatever surplus does exist or whatever avenue they need, they'll be allowed to do it. Let's just get this going. Because to delay it is an excuse to say, well, you know, we could have, should have. No, let's just get it done. And I fully support the bill, and I hope that the bill will just get passed and we can move on. And let's talk about other issues, because this bill is a good bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Speaker, sir, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in full support of this legislation, and I thank the author, Senator Calvo, for introducing it. I think when it comes down to it, we all look at what we can do to ensure that people are able to find that alternative meal. As we know that, you know, there's different organizations out there that do try to provide for meals for folks, and there's certain days that they don't feed. And at least this will be an option for those folks that are looking for that meal, that they be able to go to a restaurant or where it may be and pick up a meal that's been approved and have that meal for that night. So, you know, it's forward thinking. It's something that we should all consider and support, and hopefully that you know, it gives a hand up. It helps folks. So with that, I stand in full support, and I also ask to be a co-sponsor on this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other senator willing to speak on the bill? Senator Cobb, are you willing to close? Hang on. Good. Gentlelady from Tumuning.
Sujus Masi, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to stand and supporting this measure. I had some reservations during the public hearing. I mentioned the fact that this is an unfunded mandate. How are we going to move this program forward? And so to me, the bill was not complete. So I spoke with the author of the legislation to find a mechanism that we can, because we know that this program is going to take at least 8 to 9 months to put together if everything falls in place on time. And by then, hopefully, public health will identify some funding, but the bill will not, or the legislation or the program will not move forward unless funding is identified. So in the meantime, it's important to move the program forward because it's going to take some time to do so. So that being said, public health has mentioned they will be looking in every nooks and cranny, which, oh my gosh, we all should light a candle for public health with all the federal funds being, frozen or no longer being renewed. It's going to be very difficult for this one agency. But from that time on, it might give us an opportunity to look at other grants that are not frozen, other opportunities. It also helps when we can use nonprofit organizations to collaborate. So the process needs to start now. It needs to start now to give this bill the ability to move forward, work on the options that are there, or the ability for us to seek other funding sources outside of public health. We know that many of the other states did not partake into this program because of the cost to the state at this time. And it's unfortunate because the program is a good program. One of the greatest memories I have of my dad was when he would get up and make breakfast for all of us or make some food, put it on the table and make sure we come to eat. And it was one of the greatest joys in our life. And then when he got sick, like most of our families we experience, I know that the good senator for MTM went through pretty much the same thing I did. When they can't cook for themselves anymore. It's just an emotional, heart-wrenching scenario, but we found that after time, my father was very, he's very gracious about people cooking for him, which I thought it might be something he might have a difficult time doing as he gets older in age, but actually, he kind of enjoyed it, having someone cook for you. And this is exactly what this program is going to do for those individuals who can't fend for themselves. So I do stand in support of this legislation. And I hope that we can find the funding because that's the only way this program is going to be able to succeed, is finding the resources. So hopefully that will come to fruition and move forward to help those most needy in our community. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak on this legislation.
You're very welcome. On the motion, on the bill, any other senator wishing to speak? No other senator? Senator Call? Good senator from me, Peña.
So just want to see Mr. Speaker for the opportunity to rise and speak on the bill, which I like. I like the bill. But as we've seen in some of the discussion here on the floor, there are a lot of questions about the bill. One of the retiring speakers said that we're talking about the cost, we're talking about this, but we have to start the process. But I think public health was very clear in the public hearing that in order to start the process, they're going to need the money. And I think just listening to a lot of the discussion, the deliberation here, which I think is a key and a critical part of this process, it's very unclear to me where the money's going to come from and even how much it's going to cost. Because in order to opt into this program, it comes with a price tag. Public health is very clear that it's going to mean they have to dedicate staff specifically to looking into how we can determine eligibility with this program. And, you know, honestly, social media, at least the social media I looked at, there was a lot of pushback against this bill because people are generalizing, I guess, what this bill will do. And there's a bunch of people out there who think that everybody who's on SNAP or EBT is now going to be going to, you know, the food truck or going to the restaurant or, you know, eating steak and lobster. But actually, this program, if implemented, would benefit a very specific set of individuals, to include the homeless, which we see plenty of here in Agatna, and the elderly and those who receive a disability pension, meaning these people who cannot cook for themselves. So the intent of the program is very noble, but looking in and seeing that there are only 9 states that have opted into this program, and I think that's because a vast majority of the states, in fact, almost all of them, have questions about this funding. And these are questions that existed prior to the introduction and near passage of the big beautiful bill, which again we're still uncertain about the impacts here. So I like the bill. I like the intent of it. I think that it's something that we could definitely make use of here on Guam. Although I will say that I believe there are members whose families will benefit from this bill, in that maybe they own food trucks, maybe they own restaurants. And that's not making an accusation one way or another. That's just simply stating the facts for the people of Guam. So I like the bill. I just wish that we had more information on exactly how much it would cost. I heard different things. I heard 400,000, I heard 500,000, I heard $1 million. But I think more importantly, how much is it going to cost moving forward, and will we be able to fund it meaningfully, given that there's a lot of uncertainty, as you know, many speakers who spoke before me have stated, with the impending cuts and all of the things that the big beautiful bill proposes to do, which in my opinion, some of them aren't so beautiful, but that's a matter of opinion. So, Sidus Masi, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on this measure.
Thank you very much, Senator. On the bill. Gentlelady from John, you're recognized.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the deliberations and discussions that we're having on this bill, because, of course, at first glance, it says it allows public health to expand its SNAP program to include restaurant meals and for certain SNAP recipients. So I don't think any of us would object to that necessarily, as long as public health is going to be able to manage that program. But I do appreciate the questions from one of my colleagues regarding what impact Guam is going to have our SNAP programs in general based on what's happening in Congress, and is this the correct time to implement RMP? And I guess if we're going to say RMP, or these restaurant meals program, are for those who, and it's all intended to be for those who are unable to cook for themselves. And I think the bill even says that in there, that it's intended for those who are unable or do not have facilities or resources to prepare their own meals. So of course, it just makes sense we should allow them to get meals elsewhere. The problem is, in all the questioning that occurred, is, yeah, public health admitted that they had looked into this program already. They were, I guess, on a path to implement it, and then other things got in the way, according to one of the person from public health's testimony, including Typhoon Mawar and other things. But I'm curious whether it really required legislative authorization to allow them to do that, or they were already allowed to do that under their state plan. They were choosing to move ahead with that, but we don't know. Maybe they could not identify the funding source. Maybe they are looking for this legislative, and it's not legislative authority anymore. It's a mandate according to this bill, and that's my concern. It is mandating public health to do this, and it's mandating them, and the bill was changed in the committee from I think giving them some time period to get it done, no later than January 1, 2026. It says it will be upon enactment of this act and approval of the state plan. And so it seems like public health had testified it would take them at least a year, 12 to 16 months to get their state plan approved. And so I'm not sure if that's the goal, is just to pass this cost down, or whether they need that $1 million today to begin to revise their state plan, to begin to make the rules and regs, the requirements for the restaurants here on Guam, and hire the personnel who are going to be managing this. Because if that's the case, it's very unusual that, I mean, I see what was done in the committee. It's where the bill currently says, subject to federal approval of the state plan. The committee added the words, and an identified funding source. So they're putting in that big caveat that somebody, and it's not even clear who, has to identify a funding source. But then it says that public health shall establish this program, that the restaurant meals program shall be part of the SNAP program for Guam. And I don't think after this is passed that public health necessarily has a choice in it, that they have to amend their state plan. And then they deleted in the committee the paragraph that says that the department shall adopt regulations, and I guess we're going to go with this, whatever the state plan says, instead of adopting regulations pursuant to the AAA or any other way. It's just, I guess I would like more clarity, because I am all for, let's get them the meals or the food in the way that they can use them, in a way that is convenient for them, in a way that actually works for those who the bill's intended to help: homeless, those who are over 60, and those with disabilities. So definitely, let's help them. But then public health says, currently financing for this program would rely entirely on local government funding with no federal assistance. And this could potentially cost the government of Guam an estimated $400,000 for the first year. That's what she says in the written testimony, but during the verbal testimony, they said up to $1 million. And this is, again, it's not clear exactly how this program is going to be implemented without that money, or if there were other cuts to SNAP, and we can't make up for those cuts, and we're going to expand to restaurants. But again, I guess if it was, there were some recommendations made by DICIT, for example, to keep data so that we know how effective this program is. We know what type of meals are being purchased, so that we can see whether we're really getting what they wanted to get out of this program, or what was intended. They wanted balanced and nutritional options. It was supposed to be a goal. They wanted limits on the number of meals that can be purchased per day, limits on amounts that can be spent, and who are authorized to make such purchases. They said, be careful and the details of this RMP so that we don't widen any gaps or further any barriers. For example, allowing for the integration of customers dining as opposed to segregating the EBT eligible clients, such as homeless, from the general public. That was one of DICIT's recommendations. And lastly, collect data to monitor the program's effectiveness and see whether we need to expand this for other purposes if it is effective. So they told us 1 to 2 years to develop the state plan. They told us they would need federal approval. They said, and then the bill says, subject to the availability of funds. So, but yet the bill says it's effective on enactment. So I'm just putting that on the record. I guess that it's a little bit unclear to me what we should expect and whether by passing this, we are requiring the $1 million to be put into our budget in the upcoming fiscal year, despite the federal cuts that are happening all around public health, or whether, as some people have said, public health is going to have to find this themselves. I just don't understand how they will be able to do that. We had in the past, because of the same issues that we see in our community, and with the same intention, outright appropriated $5 million in fiscal year 21 and 22 for food and commodities. And we sent that through public health. They had quite an issue in trying to get that $5 million out. We told them, give it through nonprofit organizations that are already established, such as Catholic Social Services, Salvation Army, and others, the Homeless Coalition. But it was still an issue for them to get that money out, and they could not confirm at the hearing whether they actually had got that money out yet, the $5 million in those past fiscal years for food and commodities. Last year in the budget, or this current fiscal year 2025, we had appropriated $500,000 for food, shelter, medical care, again, through the Department of Public Health and Social Services. And we asked them at the hearing whether they were able to get that food out to those in need, but they were not yet able to clarify that or give a firm answer. It's my hope that after the hearing, they have gone back and found ways to get these food distributed to those in need. I don't think anyone's going to debate that we actually have a huge growing need. On Guam, we see it right here in Agatna, we see it in each of our villages, we see children with families. And so if this will help them, I'm all for it. I just feel like there are some provisions of it. It's a program that requires funding, and those things are not clear at all from the bill. Sidus Masi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator. On the bill, good Senator from Tumuning, you're recognized.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to say that Bill 7838 certainly has merit, and certainly when we talk about those who are vulnerable in terms of being able to prepare meals for themselves. I'm sure many have been wondering what bill I would rise on in this session to talk about things that are big and beautiful and maybe not so big and beautiful. I wanted to put on the record, and I'll use this bill to put this forward, is that it is going to be, and it's going to require one big beautiful collaboration from this body, from the governor's office, from everyone, to craft a budget that is going to be able to sustain our people going forward. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that every single program that we're discussing that requires federal match, and of course we have no certainty in terms of what programs may last and not last in terms of what's going on in Congress and what the president may finally sign. The truth of the matter is every single program is going to be subject to fund availability. I think there's no other way to sugarcoat, and there's no other way to understate or overstate the fact that that's exactly what's going to happen. Mandates that currently exist, and should this mandate go forward, are all going to be subject to fund availability. This body is going to have the arduous task, after basically 7 years of prosperity and appropriations abound, to now once again refocus and identify what are our true priorities. That is going to be every single member of this legislature's duty and responsibility as we complete our hearings for those agencies that we'll be bringing forward in the coming weeks, and as we go into that process in August. Hopefully we will have more clarity, at least from the beginning, on the big beautiful bill, or as some said, not so beautiful. And then of course, after this reconciliation, what I understand is they'll be targeting September for the actual budget overall for the government. So fasten your seatbelts, get ready for a very adventurous ride, but let it be known once again that every single program that requires funding match or funding to implement is going to be subject to fund availability. I think it's important for this body to understand that that's what we're going to be doing, is identifying what are our priorities. What are the true needs of this community? We have a motion today for a great program that we've spent over $123 million, I believe, on in terms of rebate for power credits. Excellent. I voted for all of those bills. But I can tell you right now, that is not a fiscal reality right now. I will also remind that in the supplemental budget that was passed for this current fiscal year, that was a line item veto on that particular provision. So there's going to be nice to haves. There's going to be wonderful programs. There's going to be all kinds of initiatives that are going to be desired to implement. But I can say also, Mr. Speaker, and this has been happening in our pre-budget meetings, and it will continue to happen on agency by agency for those who will be coming forward, that a status quo budget is an absolute reality in this fiscal year for the majority of all agencies and instrumentalities of the government right now. There will be exceptions, of course, particularly on education and the hospital that we're going to have to grapple with. But the reality is that's where we are today. The CRER continues to underperform as to prior years, prior fiscal years. And with the current budget request that the governor sent to us, we have not even been able to reach the $44 million in excess revenue that's called for in this fiscal year budget. When you adjust the current CRER benchmark revenues against adopted revenues, when you adjust that, it goes down to $30 million. And that's pegged against a $44 million request in addition to the current fiscal year. So once again, I'll probably be saying this several times during this session, and we'll be seeing it in June and July early as I will finish all of the hearings for those who will come before us. I want to take this time to thank all those who have submitted to us an actual budget that is a status quo budget, with the exception, of course, the organic growth and the requirements of retirement, as well as health care needs with regard to our upcoming contract possibility for the Guam Health Insurance and retirees. We'll see what that ends up as. I understand there may be some good news in terms of what the healthcare actuarial is going to come out in. We'll see. We'll wait for the formal announcement. But that's going to be good news in a time where we are all going to buckle down and figure this out. But should this bill go forward and pass, it will be in a line of many, many, many that will be battling for financial resources. This is Wasi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, sir. On the bill. Senator Cabo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I deliver my closing remarks, I'd like to make an amendment on page 6, line 16, to strike out the word shall and replace it with may.
Now I can. You want to do this notwithstanding that
Notwithstanding, sir.
the requirement to put it in rank? Well, I'll allow it because it's just one word. Okay? So this is on page 6, line 16, to replace the word shall with may.
With may.
Can you go ahead and read that whole paragraph and see how it would fit?
Subject to federal approval of the state plan and an identified funding source, the Department of Public Health and Social Services Department, open and close parenthesis, department shall strike out shall, replace with may, establish the Restaurant Meals Program, RMP, as part of the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, pursuant to the Federal Food and Nutrition Act of 2008, 7 U.S.C. Section 2011 et seq, and subject to the provisions of 7 U.S.C. Section 2018H and 7 CFR Section 278.1 D3.
Okay. On the amendment, to replace the word shall with may on page 6, line 16. Any discussions? No discussions? Any objections? No objections? So ordered. Go ahead, ma'am.
Mr. Speaker, and my esteemed colleagues of the 38th Guam Legislature, I want to express my deepest appreciation to each of you for your support of Bill number 78-38 COR and for working together to move this measure forward. This process has demonstrated the power of collaboration and our shared commitment to finding innovative solutions that strengthen our island community. To my fellow senators who co-sponsored this legislation, Vice Speaker V. Anthony Ada, I'd like to mention to request, not yet.
You want a motion?
I guess I'll mention it later at the end. To my co-sponsors.
You have no co-sponsors, ma'am?
None yet. To the ones that wanted to co-sponsor, thank you for standing alongside with me, and to everybody who delivered their remarks in support of this bill. Thank you for standing alongside with me in ensuring that Guam remains a place where no one is left behind, where we uplift those most in need and create policies that reflect the values we hold dear. Your dedication to addressing food insecurity and improving access to prepared meals for our most vulnerable is a testament to our collective responsibility as leaders. I would also like to extend my sincerest gratitude to Director Ariola and the Department of Public Health and Social Services for their careful assessment of the implementation costs and their partnership in making the Restaurant Meals Program, RMP, a reality for Guam. Your diligence and expertise have helped shape a fiscally responsible framework that ensures this initiative can be successful. A heartfelt thank you to the community members, advocacy groups, and the local businesses who have voiced their support for this measure. Your compassion for those struggling with food insecurity, The elderly, the disabled, the individuals experiencing homelessness have been the driving force behind this bill. The overwhelming public response has reinforced that empathy, dignity, and care for others are deeply embedded in our island's value, and I'm proud to champion legislation that reflects those principles. I am also grateful to the Office of Finance and Budget, OFB, for working alongside with me to identify a sustainable funding source for the program. Thank you to Appropriations Chair, Senator Chris Duenas, for his remarks. Your dedication to ensuring that we maximize existing resources without creating additional financial burdens has been invaluable. This effort has shown that when we work together, we can find solutions that are both effective and responsible. Finally, I want to thank the people of Guam for trusting me with their vote and allowing me the privilege of serving in this legislature. Every step of this process has reminded me how deeply honored and humbled I am to take part in shaping policies that will improve lives across the island. The legislative process is a profound responsibility, one that demands integrity, compassion, and unwavering dedication. As I continue my work in office, I pledge to earn the trust of the people who place their confidence in me, ensuring that their voices are heard, their needs are met, and that we build a future where opportunity and security extend to all. At this time, before I finally close my remarks, I would like to make a motion to add co-sponsors to the bill.
Go ahead.
Co-sponsors are Vice Speaker Anthony Ada, Legislative Secretary Sabrina Salas Matanani, Senator Tina Munya Barnes, Senator Vincent Anthony Borja, Senator Joe San Augustine, Senator Sean Gumatautau, Senator Will Parkinson, and Senator Telo Taitagui. And last but not the least, Speaker Frank Blas Jr. Thank you. Si Diyos Masi, undang kalit si Diyos Masi to all my colleagues who requested to be part of this profound and meaningful legislation. And so just Masi to all of you, and I look forward to working with each of you in bringing Bill number 78-38 to fruition for the benefit of our island and its people.
On the motion to add co-sponsors, okay, and we got them all, clerk? On the motion to add the co-sponsors as requested by the author, are there any objections? No objections, so ordered. Do you want to move to third reading?
At this moment, I would like to make a motion to move Bill number 78-38 to the voting file.
On the motion to move Bill 78-38 as amended on the floor to the third reading file, are there any objections? No objections, so ordered. Colleagues, we seem to be having an issue with interconnectivity with our internet. So we're going to go ahead and break for lunch, and we'll be back at 1 p.m. I please also want to state we have a robust and agenda that we're going to be very aggressive with. So there's an expectation that we're going to be working up until the mandated time as allowed by law, okay, for session. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a recess now until 1 p.m. We're on recess.